Good morning, good afternoon, good is the series where I take a look at the ServiceNow community behind me, go into some of the questions. Sometimes you take a little diversion, sometimes you take a little journey. It's a journey of learning and discovery so that you can take not only the answers, but the thought process behind the answers to your job and become a more effective ServiceNow developer and administrator. So thank you for joining me. We do this show live every day on YouTube. If you subscribe to, every weekday. I want to be more precise about this. I might be making promises that I cannot fulfill. Every weekday that I can, get on YouTube and Twitch and broadcast. So if you subscribe to the URL at the bottom of the screen, you will get a little alert on your phone, just like that, or your laptop, or wherever you get your YouTube notifications saying, hey, the live stream is up. Why don't you watch? There's also lots of other great content out there, and watch for London content to be coming out soon. I'll be talking more about that in just a minute. But if you find something helpful in this video, click the like button and show others that there's some value in here, and they will be able to go, oh, this one's got 400 stars and that one's got 250. I think I'll watch the 400 stars, 400 likes better. Good morning, Rafi. Good day. Viewing from Sydney. You are just about to get some rest, I suspect. I will be in Sydney in early October for Now Forum. Hope to see you there. We also do this on Twitch. If that is your prerogative, you can watch there at twitch.tv/NOWCommunity. Some people prefer to do that. Good morning, Rajendra. Good to see you online. If you are in Twitch or YouTube, give me a shout out and let me know where you're from. Always interested in that. I will give you a shout out back. Probably use your name as I go through and tell some of these stories too, because I like most developers, I'm starving for demo data. So I'll say, hey, what if Rajendra logged in and did this? Or what if Rafi did this other thing? It makes it a little more fun and interactive with you. If you've got a question that goes beyond just a hello, how are you? Maybe a comment about what we're working on. I get stuck sometimes. Yesterday, somebody said, you missed something on the system dictionary entry. Terrific. I've been known to see forms for 10 years and still miss elements that are on there and go, well, when did that show up? We were looking for where's the little light bulb icon come from on the short description to give you suggestions? We discovered that yesterday. It's been there for a very, very long time. I just never even noticed. You use what you use every day and you get on. Anyway, go to Twitch if you want to watch Twitch. If you have something more than just a comment or a hello or a shout out, then I encourage you to go to the community and post it there so that you get lots of subject matter experts. You can search for your answer that's probably there beforehand, and it values other people. They will get the benefit of that question also, as opposed to putting in YouTube where it kind of goes into this ether world of not very searchable. Alrighty, that's the community. If you are new to the community, take a look at these. Not going to dwell on them. Things like use the right sub-forum. If you've got an ITOM question about discovery or service mapping, put it in the ITOM community. If you've got something that's about scripting, developer community. If you've got a reporting question, reporting and performance analytics, there's different places you can go to get more specialized help on that. If you just put in the developer community and you ask a question about performance analytics and reporting, you're probably not getting the best audience. So be sure you use the right there. Put one question per post in there and you'll get more effective. If you are an expert and you've been around for a while, some suggestions for turning your expert content into blog content, others that can share. Contribute. That's where your expertise will really pay off. And if you don't know, it's okay to say I don't know. Mention somebody, send a link, get them involved in the discussion. I've done that a number of times when it comes to things like software asset management. I'm not a software asset management expert, but I do know a few, so I'll send them a mail and say, hey, Ben, can you contribute a link here or something of that nature? Good morning, Robert. From Singapore. We are just global this morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. This is a truly momentous morning for everybody. Thank you. And where were we? We were on the experts, D for developer portal. You go to developer.servicenow.com. You can get yourself a free personal developer instance running London, Kingston, or Jakarta. practice those upgrades, see what works, see what doesn't, experiment with plugins that you would often normally pay for. If you want to play around with orchestration, you can turn that plugin on. If you want to start working with virtual agent and build up some chatbot conversations on your developer instance, you can do that. London is now available. I'll get to that in just a moment. It is now available for general availability, and we just need to go through, what is it? Developer, excuse me, I'm still on the developer. Scripting APIs, free personal developer instance, free learning plans, meetups. We also have meetups over at meetup.com if you want to look for them there. There's a couple tonight if you happen to be in Houston or Oslo. I know they're not right next to each other, but if you happen to be at one of those, I am going to try and get to some of the meetups in the fourth quarter of this year. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy time. Lots of things to do. Whew. But meetups are a great networking opportunity, great learning opportunity, great sharing opportunity. I encourage you to get involved and contribute. If you don't have a meetup in your area, please reach out to us and we'll help you get one started. There are even chapters in New York, Chicago, and the San Francisco Bay Area that have a community. They need a leader. So if you're in one of those areas, again, reach out and say, hey, I'd be willing to organize that for a while and see how it goes. Again, wonderful time. We have one roughly every 2 months in Phoenix, and it's always a good time. Beyond the developer meetup, we have other events that are coming up, webinars and conferences, and I spoke about Now Forum and Snug meetings. You can find those at events.html off of our main site. So look for those there, or subscribe to me on LinkedIn. I'm always publishing information about events and news articles at that venue. One other thing, we do now have a registration link for Tech Now episode 56 coming up on September 25th, all about making custom spokes with Integration Hub. So if you are interested in Integration Hub, which came out in Kingston, it's the integration component of Flow Designer, so you can enable no-coders to put together these very easy to build workflows with Flow Designer. And you can build custom integrations. So, we've got out-of-the-box ones for Slack, and London, I believe, introduced Active Directory and AD Azure. There's things for Box. There's other integrations that we provide, but obviously we can't provide every integration for every application. You may say, hey, I need one for Todoist. Great. We'll show you how to build a spoke, which is what we call this. That's why Integration Hub. Get it? Hub and spoke. Integration Hub has spokes. We're going to show you how to build your own spokes so you can take that to the next level of your integrations and go from there. Good morning, Rahul. Good to see you. Robert. I think I already said good morning to Robert from Singapore, but that's it's early in the morning for me, and that kind of thing will happen. So go to the bit.ly link you see there to register. Also, I mentioned London is out. We are going to be, yesterday was the official launch day. If you didn't get the mail, there is a webinar coming up, and I am going to find my notes on that so I can tell you what's going to be in that launch webinar. That if you register at that link on the screen, register and attend the London release broadcast to learn how it delivers intelligence for everyday work and better experiences. Watch the keynote with host Dave Wright, Chief Innovation Officer, and Kevin Murray, VP of Product Marketing, as they reveal our latest innovations, expert demo, and learn how to accelerate your upgrade to London. In this series, London will help you take chat from conversation to resolution with Virtual Agent, raise IT satisfaction to new heights with walk-up experience, find previously undiscoverable Kubernetes clusters with Discovery, get teams to the finish line faster than ever with Essential Scaled Agile Framework, simplify security incident response with new user interface, manage employee documents from hire to retire with Employee Document Management, and tackle critical customer issues before they tackle you with major issue management. So register at the link there. We do start at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Hopefully that works for most of you. If not, I'm sure it'll be recorded and put on our webinar site on the events page as well. So you can find those on-demand webinars there. So London is officially released. Everyone breathe a big sigh of relief. And now we look forward to Madrid. That's how it goes at this company. I've already got tasks assigned. It's great. Rajendra, hi Chuck. Can we hide a record in a related list without ACL and query rules, as I'm restricted to use ACL? If you use an ACL, real quick, the better question for the community. Again, Rajendra, if you've got questions that go beyond this, the shout out or quick contribution. This is a quick question. The two options are ACL, but it will produce a line that says rows removed due to security constraints, and a lot of people don't find that very pleasing, especially if you've got 200 records, let's say, and the person only has access to read 2 of them. They may be going next page, next page, next page. It says 20 rows removed, 20 rows removed, 20 rows removed. Oh, there's one, 20 rows removed, 20. Not the best experience. The best experience is to use ACLs for security so that somebody doesn't get to that table or list inadvertently, and then use the query business rule to filter out the ones they can't see anyway. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. All right, that's the London information. Wanted to get that to you. The other thing is the Customer Success Center, which I've mentioned before. If you're on your ServiceNow journey, whether you're just starting or you've got years of experience, I encourage you to go to the Customer Success Center at servicenow.com. I believe you can just say /success. You don't even need the .html anymore. It's a redirect link that will take you to the right page. Somebody want to check that and verify for me, I appreciate it. I thought I did last week, but I don't remember the results. It was still in flux, and I'm confusing it with another short URL we made. So lots of good best practices, customer scenarios, and examples and use cases that you can refer to there. More content coming all the time, so I encourage you to check it out. Any code that I write today in the community will be available at the GitHub link via that bit.ly link on the bottom. So if you want to check those out, previous shows are available in dated folders so that you can find them if you happen to be watching the show from say October 27th, and you say, Chuck wrote a few scripts. I want to see those. You can go to that link, go into the August 27th, I think that's what I said, folder, and go get those scripts. So I will do my best to publish those. Anything I put in my external text editor, I will put in there automatically. So great stuff. You're very welcome, Rajendra. And finally, let's get to it. Yesterday we had a kind of an experiment. I worked through an application and discovered some stuff. Turns out, if you watched yesterday, short description, that little light bulb on the end was by a dictionary setting, which doesn't have an override. So I chose to just create a separate title field as a text field to get me through that. Also lended some other flexibility that I have on reports. Created a couple of reports, put them on a dashboard. All is cool. Basically, our no-code version of that employee recognition app is done. I've exported an update set. I do need to clean it up a bit. We had some, like any other application, we had some trial and error. This worked, that didn't, and a lot of the crazy stuff got into the update set that I probably don't want to publish yet. But I will be cleaning that up and going forward with that. Part of my daily duties. All right, this is the community behind me. Let's take a couple of new items, see how far we can get in the next 15 minutes or so. Let's see what's new. I go to unreplied. Wizards. Sounds like Harry Potter. Implemented outbound REST message default get HTTP method to get from third-party API Salesforce. By clicking the test-related link, I get 200 as HTTP status. Well, that's a long subject, and I suspect it's also in the same thing as in here. It is. I got a 200 and getting an API in the response body. Now how can I read this JSON response data and have it put it in ServiceNow? Okay, you need to call it from a script. I recommend clicking the preview script link to see what the code is, then copy that to a script include using your parameters. Example, replace the test values with field record and field names to make it run in various situations. You can then call your script include function from a UI action, business rule, etc. For more information on script includes, watch TechNow episode 6. Put that in there. So what they're talking about is they've built a scripted REST API. This is my developer instance, free personal developer instance from developer.servicenow.com. And I am running London, but for this example, that shouldn't matter. I've built a number of scripted REST APIs. And let's go to scripted REST APIs. It's not scripted REST, outbound. Outbound, he's doing outbound. Scripted REST API is inbound. Let's get my hands on the home row. Otherwise, I'm trying to read encryption. Outbound. System notification. Outbound REST message. There it is. System web services. Outbound REST message. And I have an outbound REST message here. Let's go to the CLS app scope so I can look at this. I gave it an endpoint. And in there, I have a post. Theirs is a GET, similar concept. But the method, think of a method like a function. So your REST message defines the major content. How's the authentication done? What's the default endpoint? That sort of thing. The method refines that down to specific parameters. Again, here's my endpoint. I want to create an incident on a remote system. I want a remote system to create an incident here. My HTTP request is going to have some headers. It may have query parameters. In this case, I have a body that I'm going to receive. That I'm going to send. This is an outbound message. I'm getting my ins and outs mixed up, and I apologize. Going a little fast today. Now, down here, I have preview script usage. I can take this, take a look at the script usage, and in here, I've got some code, and with lots of comments. I can then take that, put it into a script include, or I can do this via Studio. It's much faster and easier to maintain. But if I create a new script include and paste that in, give it a name, maybe call it CLS REST, give it a name, REST, it starts the script for me. And I can continue by creating a function. Let's pass a record in and paste this, format it in so it's indented properly. I'm not using a mid server, so I really don't need any of this, but I encourage you to read it, get familiar with what those parameters and methods are that it mentions in there. But replace the hard-coded stuff with perhaps rec.description or rec.short description. Now it's taking parameters from the record you passed in, and this is the first argument is the REST message, and the second is the REST method, because you can have multiple methods. As mentioned, you might be posting, you might be getting, you might be updating. There's different methods. You could have multiple types of posts, depends on what the parameters are, and different endpoints for that. So that's what you get out of that. I am going to, as I mentioned, copy that over to my text editor, and I will put that into GitHub in a little bit. So there's that one. Okay, anybody else have a question? I also want to take this, before I forget, put it on my notes for links used in the show so that I can give you excellent updates later. When I post this video to the community, I will include links to the community articles. So this is a bit circular. You see how that goes? I'll answer questions, but you go, oh, wait, he was talking about something in the video. I'll have a bulleted list about topics covered at the top of this show. So that's my new post-production process, is post it to the community, give you links to those articles, give you links to the code, everything you need if you want to dig into this later. If you're not watching it live, you don't have to squint at the screen and go, is that a curly brace or a parenthesis? My bandwidth isn't so good right now. So, very welcome for that. Very welcome. That's why I do this show. We're all learning. We're all sharing. Let's go back to the main page. I'm going to close that. Don't need that tab anymore. I'm going to look for unreplied. There was one at the top. Oh, it got snagged already. I want to see that again. What is the use of integration? Give me any real-time examples. Got one reply. Integrations are just ways to connect systems to other systems. Robert says, I must not be understanding the question, but here goes. The purpose of integration is to build a single coherent solution out of multiple systems. You see this right off the bat when you integrate ServiceNow with LDAP or whatever other service manages your identity. ServiceNow won't be your system of truth for your user info, so you need to integrate a system with it. To add to what Robert says, ServiceNow can act as the source of truth for ServiceNow data, like incidents, change requests, or other data where that resides. CMDB would be another good one. On the system. A system architect generally defines what is the source of authority, what is the source of truth for data. Wow, fingers aren't working this morning. ServiceNow provides many different ways, ways to integrate to other systems, both inbound and outbound. Web services, I think that's 2 words. Web services. Wow. Come on, fingers. I know this isn't the most important, interesting part of the show. Web services like SOAP and REST are supported along with JDBC. What am I missing? FTP, spreadsheet, and even email can be considered an integration. And I am going to give a link to, let's see if there's just a create an integration. That sounds like a good place to start. Let's open that up. And what I like to do is see if there's a higher level topic that might work better. So create an integration, security operations integration configuration, security operations integration reference. Not really focused on security operations. That's not exactly what I was after. Yeah, tag security operations. No, I want integration capabilities. That's security operations again. Are all integrations under security? Integration steps, HR integrations. Wow, there's a lot of integrations. Now platform, integration options. That's what I was looking for. I was looking at the tags to see now integration options. Now let's see what we have. Integrating with third-party applications data sources. That's the one I want. So let's take that. Docs. Paste that there. I know. It's better to give a name than a link. Whee! That was fun. Fine. We'll do it this way. Cut. Paste. Command K. Paste. New window. Done. I forgot to hit the bell on the first one. I moved my bell button. Okay, back to the unreplied. Making progress this morning. Good morning. If you're just joining us, this is the community live stream where I take you through questions and problems on the community and give you the thought process and some examples behind that so that you can be more effective. RITM is not added to requests in Service Portal. That's because requests are requests and items are items. They're 2 different tables. How to create BR code, QR code based on 4 fields. Is that a barcode? And let's find out. I'm creating a QR code based on 1 field asset tag. Now I would like to create a QR code based on asset tag, manufacturer, and serial number. How can I do it? I would make a calculated field. Make a new field for the combined information. You can make this a calculated field or maintain it with a business rule. This is much the same principle as the name field on the user table. Parentheses, please, on the user table. I got, sorry, cat hair on the keyboard. Maybe that's what's causing all the problem. You can then generate your QR code from the new field. Ding. There we go. Next, let's find out what's next. Domains, user roles, access to the child class created by HR admin of another cluster. How to trigger group approval. The reason I'm skipping over a lot of these, if you haven't watched before, my specialty is in custom applications, integrations, and the platform in general. So you'll see me skip over HR questions. You'll see me skip over security, incident response questions, GRC questions. There's a lot of them that are just going to go by because that's not my area of expertise. Workflow. That's pretty platform generic. I have created wizards, which have 2 panels. I can't really find anything. Why I went to wizards rather than the catalog. I have too many variables, so I have to split up the various panels. I wanted wizards to work exactly the way when I submit a catalog. Thanks in advance. Alrighty, this provide some additional details on what you're trying to accomplish. Details, table names, catalog items, etc. are encouraged. Screenshots are always appreciated. So lots of views on that one, but nobody ever has to ask for more details. That's what we need here. When you are posting, make sure you include things like that. Table names, screenshots, not just the technical information of how do I do X, but why you want to do X, because X may not even be the right solution. Chris says wizards are going away soon. Wizards have been around since time immemorial. I don't see them ever going away. I just don't see them being supported, much like the older workflow, much like CMS. It's still there. You can use it. If you build stuff on it, you can continue to build stuff on it and maintain it. But you're going to have less and less support for it going forward. It's a bit like rotary telephones. Yeah, you probably could still use one if you hooked it up. I don't know. I haven't seen a rotary telephone with an RJ11? Yeah, it's not an RJ45. It's an RJ11 jack lately, but theoretically, I might be able to use it. We have one response in the inbox. I say we go take a look so we can keep that conversation going. So I click the little bell with the red next to it. What is an example of an integration? Encore replied, also, one example would be an integration with Verizon. Consider incident is created in ServiceNow. Instances in real time. You want to send a third party. Good example. Good example. Similarly, if an incident is created in a third-party system, yep. I've seen this before, and I used to do this at one time as well. Mark, correct if this solves your issue. You don't need to put that on there. Okay, it looks like trolling in a way. Again, I did that for a while. I had it in my signature. If you do that, kindly remove it. Just as it's a community etiquette thing. Appreciate the response, but you don't need to beg for answers. If they've answered your question, or if they say, thanks, that solved my problem, then it's okay to go back and say, hey, would you mind, for the benefit of others, to mark this correct so that the correct answers do percolate higher. They come up higher in the search results, because obviously if somebody's looking for an answer, they want something that's been answered correctly rather than a random topic that's somewhat related. Let's take another look at any unreplied, and then I'm going to start going in a different direction soon. How can I generate a new notification if a user doesn't answer a survey? Surveys. I am not big on surveys, but let's do a little discovery. Maybe it's time to find out. Surveys are based off of assessments. So if I have my surveys and assessments, let's leave that. I didn't really need to. You have no surveys to take. This is going to the assessment table. So if I look at assessment, I found that by looking at the URL on the bottom of the browser. So let me show you what I'm looking at. It's going to an assessment page. Assessment under list.do. Sysparm. So the URL on the bottom says dev instancename.servicenow.com/assessment under list. This is a special page. Let's go to show all, show assigned to me. There are no assessments, but they are stored in a table. There should be an administration here. Users, groups, properties, all. There we go. Assessment, there's assessments and then there's an instance of an assessment. It's like a class and an object. Okay, there's the blueprint and then there's the house. These are the houses. So we can see that I would recommend going through the assessment instances table. Where's my question here? Because I have a few answer my survey hotline quality but cannot find how I can send a second notification as a reminder user who hasn't took time to answer the first notification. Any ideas? Yes, I have an idea. You could do this with a scheduled job. Go through the appropriate records in the assessment instance. Let's get the table name off of there. It is assessment underscore instance. Very good. Easy enough. Assessment instance table. And trigger an event, which then triggers a notification to send to the user. Let's see if I still have this. There we go. If you want, why am I underlined? If you want to do this without any code, I invite you to take a look at my scriptless scheduled job solution. Thank you, macros. There we are. All right, I am going to turn this ship in another direction for a moment. Here. Got to get one of those. There are a number of topics that I've been meaning to talk about for a while that I haven't mentioned, and they've been collecting up in my backlog. And of course, I haven't been collecting the links as I went through some of these, but that's okay. I know where I can get them. Wanted to talk about extended task fields on filters. So this is a link. Excuse me. This is a message that came up, I think it was last week, maybe over the weekend. And they wanted to show outstanding approver groups for changes by planned start date. And there is a property. So they went into reports. Let me go into reports. First, I better check if I have this property actually on or not. There is a property under System Properties, UI Properties. Get to my instance again. UI Properties. Go to the global scope so I can change my global properties. It's always nice. And I look for extend. There's this property. It says allow base tables like task and CMDBCI, etc., to include extended table fields from incident state, OS version, etc. Allow filtering on extended table fields. So when this is turned off, if I go to task.list and I say, hey, I want to configure the list layout. This is a report in effect. And the same thing will work in reports. I'm just using this as an example. I see task fields and just task fields. Notice that caller is not in here. Caller is a field on incident. So we have our base table of task with all its fields, and then we extend that to incident. So incident also has those several fields plus caller. Make sense? So caller incident has a superset of what task has. But when you're reporting, you can't get a report on the incident caller field by looking at task. If you check that box, you can. So if I go back to the UI properties and turn that field on, wow, look, it even remembered right where I was. Check that field, save the properties. This is something that comes up every once in a while. I say, hey, especially for people who don't understand the whole table extension thing. They say, well, I put it on incident. Is an incident a type of task? Why can't I see that? Let's go back to task.list. Carolyn agrees 100% about asking for the correct answer. Yeah, we don't need a tagline on your signature that says, don't forget to check this if it's the right answer. Not very community-like. So here are my tasks. Now if I go to configure, list layout, you know, at one point this used to say personalized list layout. I think it was up till Calgary or Dublin. And somebody said, why is it called personalized if you're configuring it for everyone? And what does that little cog do then? So we rebranded them. Now if I go in here, where are my fields? My fields for extended fields are down here. So I have caller from the incident table. I can put that onto my task list. What's it going to show if there's a change record? Absolutely nothing. Okay? It's not going to show anything until I find an incident, which there are 2,200 tasks. If my number starts with incident, now I have callers in here. So be aware of what you're doing when you do this, because you could have a bunch of changes where it'll be blank. You could have incidents where it'll be populated. You could have incidents that have no caller. I don't know how, it's a mandatory field, but you could. You could have problems, nothing. So you could have this report that has all these gaps in it, and people are going to say, well, what are those about? How do I coalesce on this between who requested a change request and who has a caller? Totally different architecture question. This is just to show you how you can get those extended fields on there. So that's what that property is about. Again, system properties, UI properties, and it's that extended field. Where was it? It was down here. Allow base table lists to show extended fields. And the property name is glide.ui.list.allow under extended under fields. If you really want to know, you can hover over that. You can also right-click on the label and say edit property or copy the name to clipboard. I don't know if anybody knew that. It's been around for a while. Same as when you're in, here's another little shortcut since we're on that. If I go to the service catalog, I suspect you may have learned this in sysadmin training, but your sysadmin training and my sysadmin training may be considerably different since mine was about 10 years ago. And let's go to a specific item, like new email account. When I'm on here, if I right click, I can say configure item and configure variables, add a variable. I can do a lot of configuration without actually opening the item. I could say, let me look at the UI policies for this thing. There are none, which is fine. There probably shouldn't be. It's a pretty simple form. Or let me see the variables for this. It looks like I've got a variable on there. I can then add or subtract the variables that are on there. So right click, it's your friend. What else we got? Let's go back to my list of topics of things that I want to talk about. It is 20 minutes to the top of the hour. Employer recognition work, we talked about that yesterday. The many ways to build notifications. This sounds like a 20-minute topic, so I will get started. Going to give you basics on notifications, in case you forgot from the sysadmin training, but I don't know how deep they go into this. Again, your sysadmin training may be different than my sysadmin training. So I wanted to show you a number of things around notifications that you may or may not have been exposed to, because there are some subtleties in the way that you handle notifications, and you may prefer one over the other in certain situations. So I'm going to start with the simple record notification. If I want to create a notification, I'm going to go back to my CLS scope here so that I'm able to catch it and delete it and clean things up or do whatever. And I go to, let's go to Studio. Let's just start by going to Studio and open up the CLS app. And in here, I have a number of things. No notifications, so I'll create a new notification and go to here, notification. And notifications are actually at the core, you can be very, very simple. Let's say new record. I want this on the, I don't know, CLS demo table. What did I call it? Here, we'll call it new item. New item. Because it's on the CLS item table. Complete fabricated use case scenario. When to send. Okay, this is when do I want to send it? And by default, this starts out very simple. When a record is inserted or updated, great. It's a new record. I want to send out a new notification. I'll check inserted. I really don't want to send this notification every time it's updated. If you have something that's changing, you can certainly do that. You could say, I want to send it when it's updated, and some field on that table, maybe the name changes. Okay, if the name changes, you can send a completely different notification. Very easy. In my use case, I don't want a condition. I want it only sent when it's new. Then you go to the next tab. Who will receive it? Well, we can hard code a user like me. I can put in an email address, or I could put in a name. I could search for a sys user entry. There I am. Okay. Now my name is in there. I could also put in an email address if I chose. I could. I don't see it here. Okay. So I could do that, or I could use data from the fields. So demo, if I click name, none of these are really, that they're not recipients, they're not users. I need to find a user, so there may be one here. The green, as you remember, is a reference field. I can open that up, and now I get all the fields in the demo record. There's no reference fields here, but if I had one to a user or a group, I could move it over to this side, and then it would be dynamic. So whatever the record data is, like assigned to, maybe I want to send it to whoever the record is assigned to, I can put that over there, and it will become assigned to that way. Groups, same way as users over here. I can put in a physical group. Maybe there is a security group. Here's a tip. Also works well for approvals. Is rather if you have a notification or an approval going to one person, don't put that into your workflow as one person. Put the approval to a group and add that user to a group. Even if it's data-driven, like send it to the caller's manager, that's different. But if the approver is going to a specific user, a VP, a CIO, whatever, hey, this costs over $10,000, we need a VP approval on it. Put that person into like a VP approvers group. Then as staff changes, which they do, this VP goes out, that one comes in. All you have to do is change the group in production, the group membership, and you don't have to touch the workflow again. Okay, think about that. If I hard-coded that Dave Johnson is my VP who approves everything over $10,000, and his name is in either a flow designer or a flow designer flow or a workflow as the approver, and Dave Johnson suddenly goes, someone's going to discover this after approval sits around. They go, how come my approval hasn't been done yet? Oh, it's going to Dave Johnson. Can we switch that over to somebody else? Now you got to go back to dev and change that workflow. Nobody likes that. Make the approval by the group, VP approvers, put Dave Johnson in that group, and now you can just manage data. Another plug for data-driven application design. So do that. Okay, back to notifications. I got off on a tangent there about approvers because I saw groups. That's what this show is about. It's about rabbit holes. I'm going to go down there every once in a while. Okay, email template. I can use templates. I generally don't use these a lot historically, but I'm getting to use them more and more because of the way you can do styles. But a template is something that you inject, that your notification is built around. It's a template, just like if you had a Word template, and then you put names and addresses and whatnot in there, you can do that. The subject is, of course, the subject, a new CLS item has been added. And your message is whatever HTML you want to put in here. You can put in fields. Normally this is off to the right, but because I have my font so large that you can see it, it put it at the bottom. But I can throw fields in here from the record data. So if I want the demo record and maybe the demo, not the demo number, but you can see how you just pick these fields and put them in here. Let's put the name. Obviously, it puts in the value, the label, and the string for you. Let me make that bigger for you again so you can see it. I can put formatting around here. The point is the content, the dynamic content that it pulls from the records is enclosed in this $curly brace format. So very easy to create a notification this way. This is a record triggered notification. If I submit that, it will then send a notification to me every time a new CLS item is created. Nice thing is I've got this preview notification up here. So if I click preview notification, I can choose a record that I want to demonstrate. In this case, I only have one. I can say who created this event, which means who was at the keyboard. I can pretend maybe system administrator was doing this or Abraham Lincoln was doing this and see if there are different results. So this is a great way to test your notifications. Occasionally, you will see a line through the recipient's names. There will be all the recipients' names up here. If you see a line through there, it means this message will not get through. Hover over that and it will tell you why. Maybe notifications are disabled. Maybe they don't have a device set up. Maybe they're not subscribed to it. Maybe outbound mail isn't even configured. So watch for that and hover over that if you see that. Here's the subject and here's the body with the demo data that I selected. So that's a very, very handy feature for previewing your notifications. That's the record-driven one. There's another way you can do this, which is event-driven. Same basic starting point. The difference is, let's do item name changes. Go from the CLS item table again. I will send to, instead of when record is inserted or updated, I can do when event is fired. And then I pick an event name. Now, by default, the system has a lot of events. Where did these come from? These came from the event registry. So if I go to the event registry, this is simply a list of strings and more strings and tables that go with them. So I could create my own event and say item CLS, item updated. Okay. Because it's in a scoped app, it automatically prepends the scope name to the event. So my suffix can be very terse. It only has to be meaningful to my scope. So that's an event. Events can do one of two things, or both, I suppose. They can trigger notifications and they can trigger script actions. Script actions are server-side script that is triggered by an event. We talked about those a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about outbound REST messages and after and async business rules. Not going to get into that again today. If you want to watch that, you can find the video on the community. The table is the same as before, CLS item. Now, why would I want to do this? Well, it may go beyond the parameters of a simple record inserted or updated. I may have different conditions. I may have to trigger this hundreds of times. Fired by is up to you. You can put it in here, BR, item, events, and a description. Note when item is updated. Those are completely up to you. You can default to what you want. Now I have a registered event. This will also show up in Studio. It will show up sooner or later. Probably need to do a screen refresh on there. But it won't show up in this list because the form is already loaded. So let me save that and then it will show up. I can add conditions to that. But that is how you trigger an event. Now, again, where is that event triggered from? That would be from any kind of server-side script. I'm going to use a business rule in this case because that also gives me a condition. So item events. And this will be advanced. We'll run this after any insert or update or delete or query. I guess you can run it anytime you want. In here I can say if current.name changes, then I'm going to trigger that. I'm going to queue that event with gs.eventQueue. Give it the name, X, SNC. What was the event name? I can't remember. Let's go find it. Z to A. Did I not save it? Where'd it go? Oh, I'm in the performance analytics ones. It's under System Policy Events Registry. There it is. I want that in here. Dave Slusher calls that programmer's best friend. It's called copy and paste. Second parameter is a glide record. I'm going to pass it current. Next two parameters are two strings. You can pass whatever you want in here. This could be simple strings. It could be nothing. It could be the date it was triggered. It could be the sysid of the user who triggered it. It could be a complex JSON string of stuff. Depends what you want to pass to whatever is processing that event. The notification can then get its hands on it. The script action can get its hands on it and say, oh, you passed me a parameter. It's just a way of passing additional information that is outside of current, outside of that glide record. Maybe I need to pass it an approval record to remind somebody, hey, your approval is overdue, and what they're approving. And it's not necessarily a one-to-one relationship. I do a glide record query. I put in a JSON package. I can then take that apart and make a nice message out of it. Different ways you can do this. So that is how you trigger that event. I could also just take that and test it. Business rules that modify queries cannot be created for out-of-scope tables. Oh, I didn't put a table in here. Sorry, it doesn't know what current is. Go get CLS, item. Now will you let me save it? It should have just said, hey, you didn't fill in a table name, stupid. That's the way to trigger them with events. So event from a business rule triggers an event that came from the registry. So step one is create an event in the registry. Step two is create some sort of server-side script that has gs.eventQueue in it. Step three is create the notification that responds to that event. Again, a little more flexibility in what you can do. The other reason I like these is because one event could trigger multiple notifications. So you could have one thing happen and several notifications. Maybe I tell the manager one thing, but I tell the end user another thing, and I tell the fulfiller a third thing. Same notification, same event, but multiple triggers. I don't have to. I could also make language independent messages. I could have a French message that responds to this event. I could have a Spanish message that responds to this event. I could have an English message that responds to this event. And by checking the condition in the notification, hey, is Chuck's language English, Spanish, or French? It's going to eliminate two of those. Make sure I do this right so I don't give anybody a bad signal. And pick the English message is the only one that's going to be triggered because the other ones have been filtered out by condition. So another way you could possibly do that events give you that capability very, very easily. Now, third way, let's see, I talked about business rules. Workflow gives you two ways to do notifications. One from the notification activity and one from the event activity. I've got 5 minutes left. Let's see what we can do here. Workflow, editor, can be at the bottom, workflow editor. Two different ways, two different solutions. I will tell you my preference in just a little bit. So let's do a new workflow and give it a quick name like amazing workflow for CLS. Okay, my workflow is going to work on the item table. Did it again, CLS item. There's too many things that say item in them, but there's very few things that say CLS. So let's go with the item table. I'm not going to bother with the description or conditions. Run the workflow always, looks good to me. Let's just get to the canvas. Go to the core activities. And in here, I have notifications. I have a notification event, activity, notification activity, drop it on the canvas, just like doing workflow with anything else, and say, new record created. This sounds a bit redundant from the last one. And very similar to the other one, who do I want to send it to, what groups, put in an advanced message. Maybe I put in some sort of calculation to determine who the recipients are. In this case, I'm just going to add me and put in the message. Now, the issue with this is, let's do my name. You can see this looks very familiar to doing the other stuff. Put in the demo record, expand that. Maybe the quote, I don't know. Again, dot walk notation. And there you have it. You can build in a notification very, very easily. The problem I have with this is someone says, hey, I want to change the content. It's in the workflow. These are very bespoke, very specific to the workflow, which means if you want to change just the notification, you have to go into the workflow, go back to dev, change the workflow, all that crazy process. It's not very data-driven. Plus, it doesn't give you multilingual capability like the event triggering would. It's not as flexible. So my recommendation to you is use the previous method that I showed you, but trigger the event from here. So if I want to trigger updated item, I can then say X CLS item updated, trigger that event. Here's where I can give some parameters. I can add script for parameter 2 if I need to do some lookups and put in JSON and all that kind of stuff. It's going to return a string, and the string will get passed to the event. The event will get picked up by the event management engine, and then the notification will get triggered, just like if I had done a gs.event queue, which is what this is doing on the back side. So of these two, I try to trigger all my events with all my notifications in workflows with create event. More flexibility, plus it means I'm managing all of my notifications in one place, underneath the notifications menu back here, or in Studio, of course. Excuse me. All of my notifications are managed from this list, not some of them in workflow, some of them here. The thing I haven't found yet is the final way to do this is with Flow Designer. Flow Designer is very much like workflow in that it gives you a simple, let's go create a quick flow. Sorry if I'm going a little fast on Flow Designer. We do have other videos for that. Add a trigger where a record from the CLS table is updated. CLS item is updated. We'll run that always. This is functionally exactly what I just did in workflow. And then I can create an action, and the ServiceNow core gives me the ability to send email. It does not give me the ability to create an event yet. I've been pinging them on this, and I want to see if I can do this. This is the same as the notification activity in workflow. Okay, who do you send it to? Who do you, all this other stuff, the message body, the field picker, all that good stuff. Only you're picking them like this. Okay, drag that over there instead of the field picker the other way. So a little different approach, but only available in here, which means now you're modifying notifications. Again, you have to open up the flow and modify the content in the notification. The content is English only. It's yes, there is no scripting capability in here. I haven't even got into mail scripts. Maybe we'll do that on another one. So that's the high level about notifications and how you can trigger them. Let's make sure I got everything here. Close that out. I don't need to do that. Again, if you found something interesting or useful in this, click that like button on YouTube, whatever. We've got Flow Designer. I am going to get into virtual agents soon. I am working on something that I can then pass on to you. Let's do this. I want to give you a big thank you for joining me today. If you found something useful, again, click that like button. And with any luck, I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Take care. Have a wonderful day.